Hey everyone, good morning. Beautiful, beautiful foggy morning out here. Fog rolled in last night and it's pretty thick and it's stuck around since then. So I've changed my plans a little bit this morning. Well, I've changed them completely this morning. I was hoping to get out with those foxes, start earning their trust, be able to find the den and hopefully be able to get some pictures and video footage of them. But with this fog and how thick it is, I'm not even going to go near that den this morning, not until the fog lifts and I can actually see. This fog is so thick, if you couldn't tell, I can't see clearly even 20 yards in front of me. And the last thing that I would want to do is stumble upon those foxes without me knowing or without them knowing. Because, right off the bat, that would just startle them. It would be really hard for me to gain their trust that way if I stumbled on them and scared them all into the den. So I'm not even going near that area until I can see. So what I'm doing instead is I've got some flowers and some fun vegetation starting to come up around my camp here. So I'm just staying in proximity to my camp. Hopefully get some pictures and footage of the scenery out here. There's plenty of birds that I can hear more than I can see, but there's a lot around. Now I'm not gonna wander too far from my camp though. It's incredibly easy out here to lose your bearings, especially with this fog. But even if the fog wasn't out here, there's just not a lot of landmarks out on the prairie. It's just a lot of repetitive rolling hills and flat areas, so there's not a whole lot of landmarks. And the last thing that I would want to do as I'm exploring around this morning is get lost and not be able to find my way back to camp. So I'm just going to stay in proximity to my camp here and see what footage I can get until this fog lifts. Until then, I'll have fun with these beautiful conditions that I've got, and I'll check in with you guys later. The fog stuck around all morning and even into the afternoon. Shortly after the fog dissipated, a storm rolled in and started to rain. The rain soon turned to marble-sized hail, and I took shelter as best as I could in the wide open terrain. The storm passed, and I finally began my search for Swift Fox Den number 3. It took longer than expected to find it, and once I did, I nearly walked right into it. Luckily, the foxes weren't out to see me blundering around the prairie looking for their den. I quickly retreated and watched the den from a distance. The adults had emerged and soon noticed me off in the distance. Much like the Senkett family that I had found, these adults seemed very wary of my sudden appearance on the prairie, and so, once again, I retreated further back to think of the best way to photograph these beautiful foxes. Evening was already approaching, so I set off to return to camp and come up with a different plan to photograph the foxes the next day. As I approached camp, I noticed some dirt being flung up in the air not too far off. I recognized the signs and smiled to myself as I carefully approached the flying dirt. I positioned myself nearby and waited. Soon, a striped head emerged from a hole as another American badger looked around cautiously to see if there was any danger. Badgers have fairly poor eyesight, and I held still as its gaze passed over me. It knew that something was there, sniffed the air, but didn't seem alarmed in any way. I kept my movements to a minimum and was able to get some video footage and photos of this beautiful badger as it dug holes, sniffed the air, and moseyed all around its den. Badgers are incredible diggers and can dig multiple holes each day. They dig about as fast as a human adult can with a shovel. The light started to fade quickly as storm clouds rolled over the evening sun. The badger retreated into its hole, and I used the opportunity to discreetly leave the area and return to my camp. The last thing that I wanted to do was return in the dark and accidentally step on a cactus or rattlesnake, as that would quickly ruin this wonderful trip. I settled down for the night and enjoyed the distant sound of thunder as I quickly fell asleep. The next morning, I made my way once again to the third swift fox family. The plan I had come up with the night before was to try to get the family used to my presence and hopefully be able to photograph them later that day or the following morning. I positioned myself very far from the den and waited for the adults to emerge. They did so and once again quickly noticed my presence and curiously watched me as I sat on the prairie, seemingly minding my own business. As the day wore on, I discreetly moved closer and closer to the den in hopes that they had accepted me. This is a process I've done many times with many different families of foxes. It can take hours and sometimes even takes days to get a family of foxes used to you. Unfortunately for me, this seemed like one of the families that would take days if they ever did get used to me at all.
You know, these foxes are playing really hard to get this time around. The last two families that I found have been incredibly wary, just more than any other families I've ever seen. I'll be way, way off at a distance and, just trying to get them used to me, and they're so cautious of me, just way, way out, just walking around, where I haven't really had that with foxes before, or with swift foxes before. Usually, they accept me pretty quickly if I take the time to get them used to me. These guys, it's not getting any easier with the last two families, but things might change, I don't know. So I'm trying to debate what to do if I just take the time to get these guys used to me and hope that they accept me and then be able to photograph them. Or do I observe them from a distance? Or do I go out and try to find another more tolerant fox family out on the prairie somewhere? I'm running out of time out here really quickly, and it's just such a big area, and these foxes are so hard to find. I've spent a lot of time over the years trying to find various species of fox, North American foxes. Almost every species of North American fox I've spent a lot of time trying to find, and swift foxes, in my opinion, are one of the most difficult species to find. You'd think that they'd be really easy to find in a landscape like this where it's just flat and open. You'd think you'd be able to see them really easily, but it's just the opposite. These foxes have adapted to survive in this landscape out here. And if you'll notice from the footage that I show you, the pictures or the video footage, their ears are located more on like the sides of their head almost, rather than up on top like a lot of other canid species. The reason for this being kind of like the Tibetan fox. If you've ever seen documentaries or TV shows or whatever about them, their ears are very much located on the sides of their head. And that's because they also inhabit these open areas like this. And the swift fox, the Tibetan fox, these foxes hunt prey in these flat areas, and they need to be able to hide in just nothing. So their ears, they're able to lay them down to the sides and just create this very flat profile, and they're able to lay down in the grass like that with just this flat profile, and they can hide in just a couple inches of grass. These foxes are about the size of a house cat, so that already just makes them really difficult to find. But once they lay down like that with that profile, they can be just nearly impossible to see unless you catch them at just the right angle or see a little bit of movement or something. They can just be so hard to see and find. And so that's what I'm debating right now, is do I stick it out with these guys and just hope that they accept me, which they haven't at all yet? Or do I just observe them from the distance? Or do I try to see what else I can find out there? Just trying to figure that out in my head, and we'll see what I end up doing.
I stuck it out and hoped that the family would get used to my presence. The day soon came to a close, and the family of foxes was just as uncomfortable with my presence as when I had first found them. I returned to camp as the evening storm rolled by in the distance. There was more lightning that night than there had been on any other day, so I set out once again with my camera and flashlight in tow to photograph the beautiful storm as it passed. Storm photography is an art in itself, and one that I have very little practice in, but I still had so much fun photographing that beautiful storm. Early the next morning, I was greeted by another American badger close to my camp. He was quickly making his way through the landscape, stopping from time to time at some previous burrows to see if there was any potential meal inside. I got a couple of photos, but he soon continued on his way in search for breakfast. I think he had a sense of urgency about him, as another storm was rolling in quickly, and he wanted to find his breakfast before it hit. I packed up camp with the same sense of urgency and set out onto the prairie ahead of the storm.
Good morning. What a fun evening I had last night. So that storm rolled through. The evening prairie storms, which I have come to love, they are so much fun. Great opportunities to practice things like photographing lightning, stuff like that, and that's exactly what I did last night. And it was just wonderful to do that. The cool thing about the storms is usually they pass by in the distance, and so you're able to photograph the storms, the lightning and everything without actually like getting caught in the storm and getting your gear all soaking wet or whatever. But occasionally out here the storms do roll through, and it can make for quite the eventful night. I've been sleeping out here before where I thought I was going to get like sucked up into the sky because the wind was just so strong, and I thought like a tornado funnel was just going to come down and suck me right up, but it didn't. And it's experiences like that that I thrive on and I love, and it's just so much fun. So last night I was like so thrilled. I was just giddy photographing the storm passing by, and I was able to photograph the clouds as they would light up with the lightning and get a little bit of the landscape in there as well, a little bit of composition with the some of the dips and stuff in the land where I was staying, and it was a lot of fun. I was just, every picture I would take, I was just all smiles. They're probably not even that good pictures, but years ago I was out in the desert and I photographed some lightning striking, and the clouds were lit up and everything, and that's really the only other time I've tried photographing lightning, I think. So last night I just had a lot of fun doing that. It was a good end to my trip out here. It's been such a fun trip, and I'm out of breath. I've been hiking on my way out now, unfortunately. Today, so I'm hiking back to my vehicle across the prairie to where I parked it, and hopefully I'll find it safe and sound. But I'm headed out today, and it's been such a fun trip out here. I absolutely love it. I hope you guys have enjoyed my adventures on the prairie this week. It has been so much fun. There's been sunshine, fog, storms, all of the above, plenty of flowers, plenty of wildlife. It has been so much fun out here. Those swift foxes were absolutely incredible. Just had a horned lark fly by. And, I just had so much fun with those foxes. The 3 different dens that I was able to find. What a blessing that was to find and spend time with those guys. Even though I wasn't able to get the intense, like close-up, action-filled pictures that I was hoping for, that's okay. I learned the area. I know what areas those foxes were hanging out in. I've been able to make a lot of notes in my wildlife journal. So hopefully next time I come visit this beautiful area, I'll be just that much closer
to finding foxes a little bit more quickly, so I can get them used to me, and so I can get the pictures that I'm after. And even though I didn't get the close-up pictures that I was hoping for this time around, I was able to spend quite a bit of time observing those foxes from a distance, learning their behavior quite a bit more. They're more different than I thought they were from other species of fox that I've spent time with and photographed, and it's just good to note and identify those differences, so when I photograph them in the future, it just becomes that much easier to do so. I've had so much fun out here. I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's video. It's been an amazing trip, and I'm already just marking my calendar for the next time I can come out here. I'm really hoping that'll be next year, so we'll see. If not next year, 2 years from now. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. It's a beautiful landscape that I haven't taken you guys along with me to before in my previous videos, other than like a scenic video that I did out here a couple of years ago. But actually taking you along with me, I haven't done that. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Such a beautiful area. If you've had experience photographing swift foxes, I would love to hear about it as well in the comments. Thank you so much for following along. I'm gonna keep hiking. Storm's coming in. I wanna try to beat the storm if I can. So I'm gonna keep going. Thank you guys. I always appreciate the support. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.